announce. Thanks to everybody that came at 4 o'clock this morning to pray, and some prayed at home at 4 o'clock. Very much appreciated. Continue praying for Daisy. Let's go to Psalm. Well, I'm trying to wait till 7 o'clock, but anyway, Psalm 119. Psalm 119. Verse number 21 says, I have done judgment and justice, which means I've been doing right. I've done right, I've lived right. Lead me not to mine oppressors. And you wouldn't think a man that was living right to have oppressors, but that's exactly the man that's going to have somebody to oppress them. If you don't, listen, if people are not against you, then you're not doing anything. Verse number 22 says, Be a surety for thy servant for good. Let not the proud oppress me. Now, this must be really bothering because that's the second time he's mentioned it. Mentioned in verse 21, mentioned again in verse 22. Mine eyes fail for thy salvation and for the word of thy righteousness. Now, it means that he's been looking for the Lord to come and deliver him, and God has not showed up as of yet. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it does happen. Let me read you something. This is a comment made from that verse. Mine eyes fail for thy salvation. He wept, waited, and watched for God's saving hand. And these exercises tried the eyes of his faith till they were almost ready to give out. He looked to God alone. He looked eagerly. He looked long. He looked till his eyes ached. The mercy is that if our eyes fail, God's does not. And I thought that was good because our eyes do fail and our faith does give out. And I've heard it say, well, your faith doesn't fail. Yes, it does. If God tarries long enough, your faith, I don't care who you are, will eventually fail. But he says here that he says, and mine eyes fail for thy salvation and for the word of thy righteousness. I'm waiting not only for deliverance, but I'm waiting for a word from God. Now listen, I'll tell you what, if you can get a word from God in the middle of your waiting, that'll sustain you. Because what we want, we want explanations. When things happen, and Fran was bringing this to my attention today, and it's true. You've always heard, I don't know if you heard this or not, but I've heard this in my time, that you're not supposed to ask God why. That's not true. We do ask him why, and the reason we ask him why is because you don't want to miss what the purpose is and all that's going on. But see, when you're in a place when you don't understand what's happening, if you can get a word from God, that'll sustain you in the middle of it until God delivers. Well, the psalmist here says it hasn't happened as of yet. He's waiting and his eyes are failing. It's almost gone. I don't know. You know, Gerald Smith lost his son, and he said he almost quit on God. Now, I don't know anybody personally I've ever met personally that could even that would equal the status of that one individual. And if something happened, it was so bad that it almost caused him to turn. And you understand what the psalmist is saying here. Verse 24 says, Deal with thy servant according unto thy mercy. Why? I need mercy. I don't want justice. I don't want my just rewards. I want mercy. And teach me thy statutes. I am thy servant. Give me understanding, for I may know thy testimonies. I want to understand how to react. I want to understand what's going on. I want to understand what I'm supposed to get out of this. And he says in verse 26, It is time for thee, Lord, to work. Have you ever looked at it and said, Hey, God, let's get on the stick here? Because that's basically what he's saying. It's time for you to do something. I mean, we've been waiting on this long enough. Let's get the ball rolling here. Amen? Hasten thy word to perform it. Why? Because these people have made void thy law. Now, apparently, they are on him bad. But whatever the case is in your life, look at verse 127. Therefore, I love thy commandments above gold, yea, above fine gold. And the reason we love the Word of God is because when deliverance is not there and the oppression is there and whatever the problem you face is, And maybe you're waiting on deliverance and your eyes are failing. His word never fails. And it reminds me, and I've used this illustration before, about the little boy who's out fishing in the surf up in Northern California. And I've never been up there, but it's not like they have in Southern California, or they have the beaches in South Carolina. In Northern California and beyond, there are rocks out there. So this little boy's out there fishing on these, and I'd like to see them, but I don't want to go to California to do it. But nor do I want to go to Oregon nor Washington. All those people are, except for those that are believers, they're a bunch of nuts out there. So they got some Fruit Loops for sure. But anyway, tide starts coming in. He's catching fish. He doesn't pay attention, and the tide overtakes him. Now he can't get back. And so the only thing he can do is hang on for dear life. So I'm talking, boys, the tide come and go about every 12 hours. Is that right? So he's out there for a long time. Somebody spots him, and they call the fire department, and they go out there, and they send, I don't know who it was, somebody to rescue the kid anyway. And he bring him in, and television cameras are there. They're looking for a story. They stick a microphone in his face, and they said, were you afraid? He said, I was afraid. He said, did you shake and shiver out there? He said, I did, but that rock never moved. That's right. And that's the reason we love the Word of God. That's right. We shake, we shiver, we stumble, we fall. But this book abides. When we believe not, he abideth faithful. He cannot deny himself. So don't forget about the chairs. Thank you for coming. Go pray, and we'll meet back tomorrow at 10 o'clock for Sunday school. Don't forget about Sunday school and auditorium, gymnasium also.